Hey guys, welcome back to day 2. We're solving multi-step equations with fractions today. So when you're given an equation where a fraction does not distribute nicely, meaning if you look at number 1, 4/3 times 7 is 28/3, it gets kind of messy. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the entire equation by the common denominator. So we want to look at the common denominator. All right, so if we look at number 1, we only have one fraction, and the fraction is 4/3, so there's really only one denominator. It would be 3. So the common denominator would be 3. We want to make sure the multiplication property of equality says whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So if we multiply one side by 3, we have to multiply the other side by 3. So I'm actually going to show this by putting a 3 in brackets, okay? What that really is implying is I'm going to take the 4/3 on the outside, and I'm going to multiply that by 3. And that's going to be times 7 minus n. And then my 12 is also going to be multiplied by 3. Okay, so we're keeping it balanced. Now 3 times 4/3, if you multiply fractions, you get 12/3, which is 4. So this becomes 4 times 7 minus n. So 7, whoops, let me erase that here. Okay, 7 minus n. And that's going to be 12 times 3, which is 36. So now when I distribute, I get 28 minus 4n equals 36. Okay, so now I'm just following my DC Mam. I distribute, combine like terms, nothing to combine. I'm going to subtract the constant here, so 28 from both sides. Okay, when I do that, I get negative 4n is equal to 8. And then when I divide by the coefficient, my n is equal to negative 2. Okay, so and then you can plug it back in and check it either using Desmos or just by order of operations. All right, if I look at the second one on this side, we have a denominator of 7. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 7. I'm going to show that just by multiplying like that. Okay, so what that really means is I've got 7 times my 8/7 times 3w minus 1. Now keep in mind we just multiply it by the outside, this 8/7, because that's what's getting distributed to inside the parentheses. You want to make sure you multiply it to every term, but this 8/7 is getting distributed. So that's going to be times, and we're going to take the negative 32 times 7. So 7 over 1 times 8/7 is 56/7, which is 8. So this becomes 8 times 3w minus 1. Is going to be equal to negative 32 times 7 is negative 224. Okay, when I distribute, we've got 24w minus 8 is equal to negative 224. And now I'm going to add my 8 to both sides. When I do that, I get 24w is going to be equal to negative 216. So that then my final step, I'm going to divide both sides by 24, and my w is going to be equal to negative 9. Okay, so moving on to number 3, and you guys can pause it any time and try it and then check it. But here I've got two denominators, 4 and 2. My lowest common denominator would be 4, so let's multiply both sides by 4. When we do that, we've got 4 times 3/4 is going to be 12/4. So let's spell that out. 4 times 3/4 times 5x minus 1 is going to be equal to 4 times negative 1/2 times 3x plus 3. Okay, that's a 2. Looks kind of messy. Okay, 4 times 3/4 is going to be 12/4, and 12/4 is 3, so that becomes 3 times 5x minus 1. And 4 times negative 1/2 is negative 4/2, which is negative 2 times 3x plus 3. All right, I distribute. 15x minus 3 is equal to negative 6x minus 6. I'm going to add my 6x to both sides. End up with 21x minus 3 is equal to negative 6. Okay, now I'm going to add my 3 to both sides. When I do that, 21x is going to be equal to negative 3. When I divide by 21, my x is negative 3 over 21, which can simplify to be negative 1/7. So it is okay not to have a nice answer. You might have fraction answers. That's fine. All right, looking at, let's draw a line here so you don't get confused. Number 4, the common denominator here is just the 3. So we just have the 3 there. So I'm going to multiply both sides of the equations by the 3. Okay, but here I want you to be careful. Notice this 3 over 1 times 2/3 is being distributed to x minus 5, right? But I also have to multiply the 3 by this term too. So this is going to be plus 3 times 2x. And now on my other side, I'm taking 3, and I'll distribute it, and that way I hit it to every term, so 3x minus 5. Okay, so 3 over 1 times 2/3 is 6/3, which is 2. So 2 times x minus 5. Okay, 3 times 2x is 6x. And then we distribute, that's going to be equal to 9x minus 15. I'm going to distribute here. 2x minus 10 plus 6x equals 9x plus 15. 9x minus 15, excuse me. Now I combine my like terms. We've got 2x and 6x is 8x. The negative 10 comes down, minus 10 equals 9x minus 15. Now I'm going to subtract my 9x from both sides. So we get a negative x minus 10 equals negative 15. I'm going to add my 10 to both sides, and negative x is going to be equal to negative 5. My final step, I divide both sides by negative 1 because the coefficient's negative 1, and x is equal to 5. Okay, now moving on. Sometimes it makes sense to get rid of the fractions in the equation in order to solve them. So we multiply the entire equation by the least common multiple or the common denominator. Okay, so a common denominator will work. All right, or the LCM, least common multiple. So we look at our fractions here. We've got a 3, a 2, a 2, and 3. The common denominator would be 6. Okay, lowest common denominator would be 6 in this case. So now we've got 6 times 5/3 would be 30 over y. So it would be 30/3 y plus a 6 over 2, okay, is equal to 42 over 2 because 6 times 7 is 42. And then 6 times 2 is 12. So it's 12/3 y. Now I'll turn them into whole numbers. That would become 10y plus 3 is equal to 21 minus 4y. Now I just bring my y to the other side, move the variable. So we'll get 14y plus 3 is equal to 21. Now I'll subtract my 3 from both sides, and I end up with 14y is equal to 18. So then I divide by 14, and again, we don't have a very nice fraction here. We've got 18 over 14, which simplifies to be 9/2. So our y is equal to 9/2. All right, so why don't you guys try number 6? Okay, we're going to multiply both sides by the lowest common denominator. We have 6, 3, and 2, so that would be 6. So this would become 30 over 6x minus 6 times 8 is 48/3. And that's going to be equal to 6 times 1/2 would be 6/2x. So when I turn these into whole numbers, we've got 5x minus 16 is equal to 3x. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. When I do that, I have 2x minus 16 equals 0. Now I add 16 to both sides. 2x is going to be equal to 16, and so when I divide by 2, my x is equal to 8. Okay, thank you very much.